My name is Mia Thornton, and I'm 28 years old. Tonight, at my parents' 40th wedding anniversary party, my mother looks me straight in the eyes, her lips curled in disgust, and says, "We wish you were never born." For a second, the whole room freezes. Glasses hover midair. Forks stop halfway to smiling mouths. Somewhere, the band keeps playing the same cheerful tune, completely out of sync with the way my chest tightens. I don't cry. I don't beg. I don't even flinch. I push my chair back, feeling every pair of eyes glued to me. I smooth the front of my dress with steady hands and stand up taller than I ever have in this family. My mom said, "We wish you were never born." I stood tall and said, "Then I'll disappear." Her face drains of color, but I'm not done. I lean in just enough for the microphone on the table to catch my voice, just enough for every guest, every colleague, every neighbor to hear. "You want to know what it looks like when the disappointment finally listens to you?" I smile, calm and razor sharp. "Watch closely. Tonight, you're going to remember me for the rest of your lives." Then I turn, walk away from the table, and head for the exit. Behind me, voices start to rise. Someone calls my name. A chair scrapes. My father curses under his breath. But I don't look back. My phone is already in my hand, thumb hovering over a scheduled post, a string of emails, a video I've spent weeks editing. I step out of the venue doors into the night, hit confirm, and slip my phone back into my clutch. Then I walked out. 30 minutes later, the whole party panicked. If you think a mother saying, "We wish you were never born," is the worst thing that happened tonight, wait until you see what I had been quietly planning for weeks, and how their perfect little celebration turned into a public nightmare they will never escape. So stay with me until the very end. 30 minutes before my mother spat those words at me in front of everyone, I was standing behind the dessert table pretending to adjust the tiered cake while I watched my parents pose for photos like the stars of a lifestyle magazine. The cafe was packed. Relatives, neighbors, my dad's business partners, people from church, all dressed up and laughing under strings of warm lights. The cake, the flowers, the slideshow screen waiting in the corner, it all screamed, "Perfect family." I knew better. I helped design this party. I built the stage they were about to fall from. Ryan, my older brother, held court near the bar, retelling some story about a surgery that only he could have pulled off. People hung on every word, eyes shining with admiration. Emily, my sister, was surrounded by a cluster of guests asking about law school and internships. Every time she laughed, heads tilted toward her like sunflowers. No one asked me how my art was going. They never did. I used to tell myself it was just harmless favoritism, that it wasn't that deep. Then, 3 weeks ago, I found the bank statements. I'd gone by my parents' house to drop off some sample designs for the anniversary invitations. Mom had left a folder on the dining table, half open. I recognized my own name on the top page, MIA Thornton College Fund, and a knot formed in my stomach. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. The fund was empty. Not used for my tuition, empty. Transferred. Broken into chunks and sent to cover Ryan's loan consolidation and Emily's bar expenses, years ago. There was a note in my mother's handwriting on one of the statements. "She'll never make money with art anyway. Better to invest in the real futures." In that moment, something in me snapped, and something else woke up. I started noticing everything. The way my parents introduced us to people, our brilliant surgeon, our future lawyer. And then, if they remembered, "This is Mia. She draws." The way my mom rolled her eyes whenever I mentioned a gallery. The way my dad changed the topic whenever I spoke. And the things they said when they thought I wasn't listening. So I started recording. Little voice memos on my phone as I stood in the hallway, in the kitchen, outside half-closed doors. My mother sighing. If we hadn't had her, we could have retired by now. My father muttering, At least the other two turned out right. Ryan's careless chuckles about my little hobby, Emily calling me the practice child. If I put all of that on a screen, in front of the people who worship them, would anyone still call us the perfect family? When they asked me to help with the anniversary party, Mia, you're artsy. You can make it look nice, right? I smiled and said yes. That was the moment my revenge stopped being a fantasy and started becoming a plan. Tonight wasn't just a celebration for them. It was a stage for me. They just didn't know they were about to be the ones on display. The plan started with a simple lie. Let me handle the slideshow, I had told my mother a month before the party. You know, a little video with your wedding photos, family memories, all that sentimental stuff. I can design something nicer than those boring templates. She barely looked up from her laptop. Fine, just don't make it too weird, Mia. People want something classic. Classic? Sure. I collected every old photo my parents had ever proudly displayed. Their wedding day, newborn Ryan, newborn Emily, my awkward baby pictures squeezed into the edges of frames as an afterthought. I scanned them, sorted them, and stitched them into a neat, heartwarming opening sequence. I wanted the first half of the video to look exactly like what everyone expected: the perfect love story, the perfect family. Then I opened a new folder on my desktop and named it Truth. Inside that folder, I dropped the audio files I'd been recording for weeks. Mom's voice, sharp as glass. Sometimes I wish we'd stopped at 2 kids. Dad's dismissive grunt. Mia is just expensive decoration. Ryan laughing. She'll be back living at home within a year. Emily saying, we're all carrying her dead weight. I layered those voices over screenshots of the bank statements, highlighting every transfer out of my college fund. I zoomed in on the note in my mother's handwriting, better to invest in the real futures, and paused it long enough for anyone in the room to read. Then I added my art, pieces they'd refused to hang in the house, designs they'd called a waste of time, abstract portraits that twisted their smiles into masks, my mother's eyes made of broken glass, my father's grin lined with teeth that looked more like cracks. At first glance, they were just moody, vivid images. With the audio, they turned into weapons. Jess, the barista at the cafe, was the only person who knew even a fraction of what I was doing. I met her after closing time one night with my laptop and a shaky laugh. You're serious? She asked, eyes wide as I showed her the rough cut of the video. As a heart attack, I said. They've been calling me invisible my whole life. I want to show them how visible I can make them when I want to. She whistled softly. This will blow up the whole night. That's the point. We worked out the logistics together. The cafe had a projector and sound system. The plan was to play a tribute video right after the speeches, when emotions were high and everyone was paying attention. I exported the final file with a harmless name, anniversaryfinal.mp4, and loaded it onto a USB drive. Backup number 1 went to the cafe laptop. Backup number 2 was hidden in my clutch. Backup number 3 lived in a private cloud folder, scheduled to go public on social media exactly 30 minutes after I left the party, just in case someone cut the power or tried to pretend it never happened. I even drafted an email addressed to my dad's most important clients, the hospital board where Ryan worked, and some of Emily's mentors. All it needed was a click to send links to the video and a few carefully selected screenshots. My cursor hovered over that email many nights. If I destroy their reputation tonight, will it fill the void they left in me? Or will I just be standing in the ashes of something I can never get back? In the end, the answer didn't matter as much as the question they had never once bothered to ask me. What did we do to you? They never asked. So I decided I would answer it for them. Publicly. By the time the party started, my plan was humming quietly beneath every surface, behind the slideshow screen, in the cafe's sound system, inside my phone, waiting in my drafts folder like a loaded gun with my finger on the trigger. All I had to do now was act like the harmless, forgettable daughter they thought I was. I arrived early under the pretext of helping with decorations. I checked the projector, tested the speakers with some soft instrumental music, and made sure the video file played smoothly. The first half looked exactly like any other anniversary tribute. Soft piano, smiling photos, captions about endless love. The second half was muted on the test run. Only I knew what would come after that last fade to white. Guests began pouring in. I floated around the room with a tray of champagne flutes, smiling just enough to seem polite, invisible enough to be ignored. "Tonight is about your parents, not you," my mother whispered sharply when she passed by, pinning a corsage to her dress in the reflection of a window. "No drama, Mia. Promise me." I almost laughed. "No drama," I repeated, keeping my tone neutral. "Sure." Dinner passed in a blur of small talk and clinking silverware. My dad's business partners toasted to 40 years of love and success. Ryan gave a speech about sacrifice and family. Emily followed with a carefully rehearsed story about how our parents always believed in them. Everyone clapped, some even dabbed at their eyes. When my mother took the microphone, she shined under the attention. "We are so blessed," she said, voice trembling theatrically. "Our children have made us proud." Her gaze swept the room, sliding over me as if I were a chair. "Some of them," she added lightly, triggering a wave of polite laughter. Heat crawled up my neck, but I stayed seated. I knew what was coming. Or at least I thought I did. After the speeches, my mom floated back to our table, cheeks flushed from wine and compliments. Someone suggested I say a few words. "Oh, Mia?" she scoffed, loud enough for half the table to hear. "She's better with her little drawings than with speeches." That should have been the line that hurt. It barely grazed me. I had heard worse in the recordings. What I didn't expect was the way she leaned in when the others turned back to their plates, her voice dropping to a hiss meant only for me, and the microphone resting inches from her hand. "You're sitting here because we were too soft to do what we should have done years ago," she said. "Sometimes I truly wish you were never born." The microphone caught every word. The room went dead silent. My mom said, "We wish you were never born." Time stretched. I heard someone gasp. A fork clattered against a plate. The old version of me would have folded in on herself, staring at her lap, swallowing the hurt like poison. Instead, I pushed my chair back slowly, the sound slicing through the silence. I stood tall, my heart pounding but my voice steady. "Then I'll disappear," I said, letting the words hang in the air like a verdict. Her eyes widened. "Mia, sit down. You're making a scene." "A scene?" I laughed once, humorless. "No, Mom. A scene is what happens when people don't know the truth. Tonight, they're going to see it in HD." I turned to the stunned room, giving them the first real smile I'd worn all night. "You all came here to celebrate their perfect love story," I said. "Do yourselves a favor and stay for the sequel." Then I walked away from the table, from the spotlight they never allowed me to share, and headed straight for the exit. As I passed the sound booth, Jess caught my eye. Her hand hovered near the control panel, waiting for my signal. I didn't say a word. I just nodded. She nodded back, jaw set. Outside, the night air hit my face like a slap and a blessing at the same time. I pulled out my phone. The scheduled post was ready. The email draft was ready. The video was loaded. All I had to do was let the timer run. 30 minutes. That's all it would take for their entire world to tilt on its axis. I didn't go far. There's a narrow alley beside the cafe where the kitchen staff takes smoke breaks. I leaned against the cool brick wall, just out of sight of the front windows, close enough to hear the muffled hum of the party. My hands were steady now, the way they always got right before I did something irreversible, like cutting into a canvas I'd spent weeks on. I checked the time. 12 minutes since I walked out. 18 minutes until the social media post went live. Somewhere inside, Jess would be queuing up the video under the guise of "Mia made a surprise tribute." My phone buzzed. A text from Jess. "Jess, they're settling down again. Your mom's acting like nothing happened. Ready? I typed back. Mia, press play when they call for the slideshow. Don't stop it, no matter what. Jess, got you. Another text popped up, this time from my mother. Mom, come back now. We will talk about this later. Stop being dramatic. I let the notification disappear. For once, I wasn't the one who needed to come back. They were the ones about to be dragged forward. Into the truth. 15 minutes. I opened the social media app where I'd queued the video. The caption was simple. Here's what 40 years of perfect parenting looked like from the child they wish they never had. The visibility was set to public. Comments on, shareable, 25 minutes. Voices from inside grew louder, then hushed again. The cafe's front lights dimmed slightly, the cue for the slideshow. My heart rate kicked up, not from fear, but from a strange, fierce anticipation. Then my phone lit up with a new text from Jess. Jess, it's on. They cheered when your name showed up in the title. Video by Mia. Your mom looked smug. I almost laughed out loud. Of course she did. I could picture it. The opening shot of my parents on their wedding day, dancing under cheap string lights, younger and softer, eyes full of real hope. The room would be warm, full of coos and nostalgic sighs. Then photos of baby Ryan, baby Emily, family vacations, Christmas mornings. My parents' shoulders would relax. My mother might even dab at the corner of her eye. For the first 2 minutes, it was exactly what they expected. Then the video cut to black. In that sudden silence, over a black screen, my mother's voice came in, sharp and unfiltered. Art is not a real career. We should have stopped encouraging her stupid sketches years ago. According to Jess, her messages started coming fast, almost breathless. The room went stiff. Jess, people are looking around like, what? Your mom is frozen. Your dad is red. The black screen faded into a zoomed-in shot of the bank statement. MIA Thornton College Fund, balance 0.0. Then the highlighted transfers. Transfer to Ryan Thornton, loan. Transfer to Emily Thornton, fees. My father's voice overlaid the image. At least the other two turned out right. She'll never notice. She never pays attention to finances. Gasps, murmurs, the clink of someone setting their glass down too hard. Jess, Mia. Your mom tried to stand up and say it's fake, but the next clip hit. The next clip was audio of my mother sighing to a friend on the phone. Mia is just a drain. If we hadn't had her, we could have retired by now. That line played over a painting of hers I'd done in secret. My interpretation of her, smiling wide while her shadow twisted behind her into something darker. Then came the line from tonight, the one the microphone had caught perfectly. Sometimes I truly wish you were never born. This time, the words echoed through the cafe, paired with a slow zoom in on my face at the table, eyes wide, before cutting to a still frame of me as a child, standing at the edge of a family photo, half cropped out. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Jess, people are crying. Some walked out. One of your dad's clients is yelling at him near the bar. Unknown number. You're disgusting. How dare you do this to your family? Another unknown. I'm so sorry, Mia. I never knew. The video continued, intercutting my parents' insults with my art, pieces inspired by every time I'd been dismissed, every time they'd pretended I wasn't in the room. My voice, recorded earlier, narrated over the chaos. This is what it feels like to be the child they don't choose. This is what it sounds like when love is conditional. At the end of the video, there was no cheesy quote about family, just a final line of text. You taught me that reputation matters more than truth. Tonight, I chose truth. Then it faded out. Inside, all hell broke loose. Jess. Your dad tried to yank the power cord, but it was too late. Half the room was already filming it on their phones. Someone shouted, "You used her college fund?" Your mom screamed at the manager. Ryan is trying to calm people down. It's Bad. Right on cue, the notification popped at the top of my screen. Your video is now live. Shares started ticking up almost instantly. Comments poured in from strangers, some supportive, some judgmental, all of them watching the perfect facade crack in real time. 30 minutes after I walked out, the party had stopped being a celebration and turned into a crime scene of their choices, with everyone they wanted to impress standing in the middle of it. My phone rang again. This time it was Ryan, then my dad, then my mother. I let all 3 calls go to voicemail. Then I powered the phone off, just for a moment of pure, undisturbed silence. For the first time in my life, they were the ones scrambling for my attention. And for the first time, I had no intention of going back inside. The morning after the party, my video hit 1 million views. I knew it before I even turned my phone back on. Jess had slipped a note under my apartment door on her way home from the night shift. They're calling it the Anniversary Massacre. The note read in messy ink. Brace yourself. When I powered my phone on, it vibrated so hard it nearly slipped from my hand. Notifications poured in. Likes, shares, friend requests, interview requests, threats, apologies, people reliving their own family traumas in my comment section. My mother's face, captured mid-scoff in one of the freeze frames, had become a meme overnight. Someone had added text over it. "We wish you were never born," on top. "Okay, bet," at the bottom, with a screenshot of me walking out. It was darkly funny. It was humiliating. It was mine. For a few days, my parents stayed quiet. Then the damage reports began trickling in. Ryan called first, not to apologize, but to accuse. "You destroyed everything," he hissed, his voice low and ragged over the line. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I showed people what you said," I replied. "You did the rest." "The hospital board is reviewing my position. Patients are canceling appointments. They think I knew about the college fund. They think I used you." "Did you?" I asked. The silence on the other end was answer enough. Next came Emily. Her voice shook in a way I'd never heard before. Not controlled, not composed. "My firm asked if there's more," she said. "More recordings, more bank statements. They're afraid of a scandal. I was supposed to start a clerkship next month. Now they're re-evaluating." I closed my eyes, leaning my head back against the wall. "You called me the practice child," I reminded her. "You laughed when they gutted my future for yours. Now you're surprised the bill arrived? You could have talked to us," she snapped, anger flaring through the fear. "You didn't have to do it like this. You could have talked to me years ago," I said softly. "You didn't." She hung up. My parents didn't call until the local news picked up the story. A reporter ran a segment titled, "Behind the Perfect Family Portrait," featuring clips of my video, blurred bank statements, and a blurred screenshot of my mother's note. Better to invest in the real futures. Suddenly, it wasn't just online, it was on TV. It was playing on the small screen in the waiting room of my dad's office. It was sitting in the living rooms of people who'd known us since we were kids. My father's first words to me were not, "I'm sorry." "We can fix this," he said instead, voice tight. "If you take the video down, we'll tell everyone it was edited out of context, that you were struggling. We'll get ahead of it. Damage control." I laughed, a short, sharp sound that made him flinch. "You want to use me as the scapegoat again? The unstable artist daughter who twisted your words? If this continues," he pressed, "I could lose everything I've built. Your mother is being shunned at church. The neighbors talk. Is that what you wanted?" I thought about it longer than I expected to. Not because I doubted what I'd done, but because hearing him admit he could lose everything was like watching a statue crack. "Yes," I said finally, "it is." He inhaled sharply, like I'd struck him. "We raised you. We fed you. You drained my college fund without telling me," I cut in. "You told people I was dead weight. You let her say she wished I'd never been born and didn't flinch. You raised Ryan and Emily. You tolerated me." He didn't deny it. "The art world found me before my family could figure out how to bury me." A gallery owner in the city sent me a DM. Saw your video. Brutal, raw, important. I looked up your portfolio. We should talk about a show. At first, I thought it was a joke. But then there was a Zoom call, then a contract, then a date on the calendar. 3 months from the night my mother tried to erase me, my work would hang on clean white walls under bright lights, and people would come just to look at something I'd created. The gallery wanted to call the show Conditional Love. Your story is part of the work, the owner, Lena, said. You don't have to talk about your family if you don't want to. But you should know. People are connecting with what you made. They feel seen in it. They weren't the only ones. Messages appeared in my inbox every day. I was the invisible child, too. My parents used my tuition for my brother. Thank you for saying what I never could. It was strange, being both the villain and the hero of a story I hadn't even meant to share this widely. On the day I signed the contract with the gallery, a final email arrived, from my mother. No subject line, no greeting. Just one sentence. You killed our family. I stared at it for a long time. Then I archived it, closed my laptop, and picked up a blank canvas. If the family she wanted had to die so I could live as myself, maybe that was the most honest thing that had ever happened between us. The night of the opening, the gallery was more crowded than the anniversary party had ever been. People milled around with glasses of cheap champagne, murmuring in low voices, pointing at my paintings, reading the little cards on the wall. Some of them recognized me from the video. That look of half curiosity, half pity was impossible to mistake. Others were just there for the art, for the spectacle, for something to post about later. Every piece in the show was a variation on a theme. Family portraits that never quite aligned, mouths blurred out, eyes replaced with torn receipts, silhouettes cut out of old bank statements. One painting showed a family of 5 at a dinner table, but one chair was transparent, fading into the background. Another was a self-portrait, my face built out of shredded apology texts and "you're overreacting" screenshots. In the center of the main wall hung the piece everyone kept gravitating toward, a large canvas divided in 2. On one side, my parents at their anniversary party, smiling for the camera, champagne flutes raised. On the other, the same scene, but their bodies were cracked glass, and in the reflection of every shard was a different version of me. Child me, teenage me, last night me, walking away from the table. Underneath it, the title card read, "We wish you were never born." Lena sidled up next to me at some point, wearing a blazer that probably cost more than my first 3 months' rent combined. "We've already sold 4 pieces," she murmured. "Including that one." She nodded toward the central canvas. A strange pang went through me. "Really? Who bought it?" "A private collector," she said. "Anonymous. Paid full price and then some." I swallowed, nodding. It shouldn't matter. That was the point. To detach. To let the work speak for itself. Still, the idea of that moment hanging in someone's hallway, a frozen echo of the worst thing my mother ever said to me, was unsettling. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I almost ignored it, then glanced at the screen. Dad calling, the name I'd been dodging for weeks. I stepped out of the main room and into the small side hallway where the bathroom and storage closet were. The music and voices dimmed behind the heavy door. I could still hear them, like the ocean heard from inside a car. I answered, "Hello." For a moment there was just breathing on the other end. Then his voice, tired and smaller than I had ever heard it. "Mia." "Dad." "I saw the photos," he said, "of your show. Your mother. She can't look at them, but she keeps the articles open on her phone." It was such a strange image, her scrolling through my success in the same hands that had signed away my future. "Our house is quiet now," he went on. "Ryan moved out. Emily barely calls. People don't invite us to things anymore. Your mother stopped going to church. She says everyone is judging her. The practice closed one of my clinics. We might have to sell the house. There it was. The collapse. The price. Are you telling me this because you want me to feel sorry for you? I asked. Not unkindly. Just honestly. I'm telling you this, he said, because you should know you got what you wanted. I leaned my head back against the wall, staring up at the ceiling. The paint here was cracked. Someone had once tried to cover a water stain and failed. Did I? I murmured. You ruined us, he whispered. Your own family. I thought of the empty college fund, of my mother's note, of years of being the ghost at my own table, of the night in the cafe when she finally said out loud what she'd been thinking for years. I didn't ruin us, I said quietly. I just turned the lights on. We stayed on the line for a few seconds longer, neither of us speaking. Then he said, She cries, at night. She keeps saying she wishes she could take it back. I closed my eyes. That was the thing about revenge no one liked to post online. The part where the people who hurt you finally break, and instead of feeling triumphant, you feel hollow. Why are you telling me that? I asked. Because I don't know what to do with her anymore, he admitted. And because part of me wonders if you ever loved us at all. The question stung more than I expected. I did, I said. That's the problem. I loved you so much it almost killed me. Silence again. Then, very softly, if we asked to see you, would you come? Behind the door, someone laughed loudly. A burst of applause followed. My name floated faintly through the air. Have you met the artist? She's incredible. Like I was a new person entirely, separate from the one he was talking about. Once, the answer would have been automatic. Of course. Of course I'd come. Of course I'd fix it. Of course I'd fold myself back into the empty space they'd left for me. Now I hesitated. Not because I didn't know what I wanted, but because I finally understood I had a choice. What if I walked back into their house and let them apologize, let them explain, let them try to rebuild something on top of the ruins? Would that heal anything, or just bury the truth under new layers of polite lies? I don't know, I said honestly. Not yet. He exhaled, a shaky sound. I suppose that's fair, he admitted. If you ever decide, I'll call you, I cut in. If I decide. I hung up before he could say my name again. When I stepped back into the gallery, the noise washed over me like a wave. Lena waved me over to meet a critic. Jess stood near one of the smaller pieces, grinning, giving someone a dramatic retelling of the anniversary night. She caught my eye, lifted her glass in a small salute. I smiled back. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from an unknown number. Mom, I'm outside. My heartbeat stumbled. I walked to the front of the gallery and looked through the glass. There she was, standing on the sidewalk in a plain coat, no makeup, hair pulled back. Not the polished woman from the anniversary party, not the meme version of herself, just my mother, small and uncertain, clutching her purse like a shield. She didn't come in. She didn't wave. She just stood there, staring at the title printed on the window. Conditional Love, New Works by Mia Thornton. For a moment, I imagined walking outside. I imagined her trying to say the words she'd never said. I'm sorry. I imagined myself forgiving her. Or not. I imagined 100 different versions of that scene, none of them quite fitting. Instead, I stood still, just inside the glass, watching her the way she had watched me my whole life, at a distance, through a frame, never fully in focus. My phone started ringing again in my hand. Her name on the screen. I let it ring. Then I turned away from the window and walked back into the crowd, into the light, into the noise of people saying my name like it belonged entirely to me. They had taught me over and over again that I was a mistake, that I should have never been born. Tonight, standing in a room full of my work, with my story hanging on the walls and my future written in my own hand, I finally believed something else. I wasn't the mistake. They were.